Hey everyone, it's shit.
Oh, what a start.
Well, I'm trying to think of an opener for this one. It's kind of hard because the name is it's an unusual sounding name. It's a good name, just unusual sounding.
Try again. Try again. In 3, 2, 1.
Hey everyone, welcome to the first episode of the GankTank. I'm your host, Vita, and John is here with me, and we're going to be talking about pretty much some pretty random things. So we already have an intro video that is released, and this one we're going to just be talking about the basic anomaly of games right now, just basically where everything stands and how games are just stuck in this one genre type mode. And that doesn't mean just like FPS, that just means like action or drama, or kind of comparing it to movies and books, and how it seems like companies are trying to move towards storytelling, but it seems like they're scared to step out of their box. They're kind of really trying to take it to the next level on graphics, or take it to the next level on the casual player, the
Heavy
competitive
Rain,
play, and so on and so forth. And John, do you want to start like with some thoughts with this?
did you not play Heavy Rain?
Well, yeah. I mean, Heavy Rain was really focused on story, and I think that was a great example of where games should start heading towards. But I think there's a lot of games out there that try to have a great storyline for the casual players, and then there's games, and those same games also have a competitive aspect. Like, I mean, everyone that has watched videos on this channel know that I love StarCraft, and I think that's a prime example of that. But I mean, you look at the same company in Diablo, that just is kind of a rehashed version of Diablo 2. The story isn't great at all. It really has no major improvements. I mean, there is no PvP yet. I mean, they say they're going to release it, but who knows how long that's going to take, because Blizzard takes forever for their patch releases.
Dang.
But I mean, and then you take a look at Valve, and Valve is kind of stepping into this competitive base. I mean, they have Dota 2, and they have CS:GO that's releasing, and that has absolutely no storyline whatsoever. And then you look at another one of their recent releases, not really that recent anymore, but Half-Life, not Half-Life, but the Left 4 Dead series, and that wasn't really storyline based. That was more of a very casual game that you could just kind of hang out with friends, and it kind of really uptook that whole zombie uprising, because there was a time period in which everyone loved zombies.
They still do.
Oh yeah, I don't think that's ever going to change.
Have you heard about this thing in England?
What thing in England?
There's some place in England that for like $220 American dollars, you can have like a zombie killing spree in an abandoned mall for 3 hours.
Huh.
It's outstanding. If I was a rich kid, I would go.
And how does that work?
It's like airsoft stuff, so you're not supposed to shoot them in the head, which kind of sucks for zombies, but yeah, it's outstanding.
Then how do you kill the zombies? That kind of defeats the purpose.
You shoot them in the body enough. They're real people, don't hurt them. Not too much.
Well, yeah, they're real people, but that just, I don't know. I would want to shoot a zombie in the head, even if they're dressed up as a zombie.
This is true.
Back
on
anyway,
topic.
it's completely off topic, John.
We can go off topic.
Well, yeah, I'm just...
Tell me that wouldn't be awesome, though.
That would be pretty cool.
3 hours of shooting zombies in the chest, not the face, dang it.
You wanted to shoot them in the face. You see, that's the whole thing. That's the whole draw about zombies, is you get to shoot things in the face, and everyone thinks that's hilarious. And I don't know why, but
I'm gonna refrain from mentioning the Miami zombie, because we're gonna go off on a zombie tangent.
Because
we're gonna go off on a zombie tangent.
It's just a whole nother topic in itself.
That's a zombie tangent. We're not on a zombie tangent. We'll get to that at a later point, because I love zombies so much. Back to your focus on how much story sucks.
Well, it's not really that story sucks. It's more the fact that everyone hyper focuses on things, and it's kind of like
lack of hybrid.
Kind of like an ADD type of thing where ADD people they have a hard time focusing, but when they do focus, they hyper focus on it. And I think that's the same with a lot of game companies. They kind of show ADD, like they don't know what to do and where they want to go on. And when they finally decide on something, they focus on it so much that they forget about everything else. So, like, you look at EA and you look at the sports games, really beautiful graphics, but it really doesn't have anything else for it. Most of the time, the gameplay isn't that great, let's be honest.
Well, I mean, the sports games are solid.
The last good sports game that actually was halfway decent,
careful.
And at least in my opinion.
Careful.
At least in my opinion. Okay, I'll try to be careful, but at least in my opinion.
FIFA's outstanding. Madden's outstanding. 2K's beating him in basketball.
I'm going to go there. I think that NFL Fever was really good for the arcade. Sucked for the Xbox, but really good for the arcade.
Mm.
And I think it had it there. I mean, it didn't have the voices Madden did, but it was the first direction in those sports games and upping the graphics, but they had a great gameplay. It was really fun to play. I mean, yeah, there's still huge tournaments for these football games that are out there. I mean, that's actually how a lot of LAN centers, computer centers, are actually making their money, is through NFL Madden games, because for some reason people will pay $50 to buy into a tournament for a chance to win like $2,000, $3,000.
Those are some crazy people, by the way. I've met a few of them. They are just nutty gamers.
Yeah, it's really weird because it's not really games that you would think would be like have a high competitive attitude, but they do.
They're not on a world scale like StarCraft, but they have just as much like tournament zealousy.
Well, yeah, exactly. I mean, it's almost like a religious cult in that sense. I mean, StarCraft doesn't really have that whole craziness about it, but okay, well, maybe in Korea.
Here too.
Not so much. I mean, yeah, you have MLG, and that's how MLG is surviving right now, is with StarCraft, but they don't make any profit.
Need I remind you which one of us...
MLG is not making profit. People are investing into MLG, hoping that eventually we'll hit a profit, but I don't see it hitting a profit for, 10 years.
Can I remind you which one of us is a StarCraft semi-pro?
Yeah, but I think StarCraft is a step in the right direction, but I don't think it's really going to take off. I think it's kind of hit its plateau because Blizzard hasn't really pushed it to keep it on top, and I think that America is losing a lot of interest, and really that's where the main focus is, because right now GSL is still growing, which is the Korean-based one, and Kespa just recently signed on StarCraft 2. So that's good news for Asia, and Asia still has a Chinese Invitational. I forget the actual name of it. And then you also have that Swedish tournament, that huge LAN, and that still has a huge following, and a few other major tournaments in Europe, but it's kind of died down in the US and even Australia. So I don't really see it. I see people like the NFL. It's going to turn into that, where the NFL Madden games, it's just going to turn into that. Simply.
Could it be gamer ADD? Going back to what you were talking about originally.
Yeah, well, I think gamer ADD is huge. I think people get really into a game. It's the same thing. It's like WoW players. I mean, they hyper focus on the game and then they completely forget about it for a couple months, and then what do? They go straight back to it because it's what they know and what they've been used to for however long that they hyper focus on the game and didn't really care about anything else.
That hyper focus name is a great name for a superhero. Back to topic.
Yeah, that would be kind of interesting.
Back to topic.
Anyways, I don't know. I just think that storylines, people are really losing. Gaming industries aren't really. They're focusing too much on one aspect of the game, and they're not really making everything flow together. I feel like graphics are too good for the story, or gameplay is too poor for the story, or just the feel of the game. I mean, everything has to somehow flow. The game
what about
doesn't
Mass Effect?
have to be. the game doesn't have to be. My point is, the game doesn't have to be amazing to be a great seller and be one of the great games out there. It just needs to be able to all work together. And I think there's a lot of games out there that just don't have that. And even the games, some of the games that are great and everyone loves and enjoys, isn't there yet. And I think it's going to take a couple more generations of games for us to finally.
Okay, which generation are you referring to? You referring to a personal generation or like a game console generation or like a year-to-year game generation?
I'd say by a couple generations, that would be. I say a generation of games is about 6 quarters, so a year and a half.
Why didn't you just say a year and a half?
Huh?
Why didn't you just say a year and a half?
I don't know.
Why do you count your years in quarters?
Because that's the whole gaming thing. It goes by quarter 1, 2, and 3, and then 4.
That's business. You're not in business.
Well, I want to get my MBA, but besides the point. I don't know. I think games really need to try to flow together rather than trying to over succeed in one aspect and say, "Ooh, look at us, we have great graphics," or "Ooh, look at us, we have great gameplay," or "Ooh, look at us, we have a great story, we're stepping out of the box." I really think, because I look at a lot of PS3 games, and I'm sorry, but so many of those games are really well done, but the controls and the gameplay is just god awful.
I didn't much like Killzone or Resistance for that reason. They didn't feel very good to me.
Exactly. I tried playing Killzone, and it doesn't feel right. If you can make any type of game can work. Like Halo Wars, much better game than it didn't succeed as well as it should have. It had a decent storyline, and everything felt well together. Of course, it used the Halo name, and that was a part of its success, but I think it should have done a lot better because it actually was one of the few console games that went RTS and actually really tried to make an RTS work for the console. And
Can I state that Army Men RTS is by far one of my favorite RTSs ever?
Which one?
Army Men RTS, and that was a console thing. It's outstanding.
I actually never played that game.
I liked it.
Like Command and Conquer, way too complex for the console. Just by no means, it was never meant to make it anywhere other than 1 or 2 playthroughs at all. I mean, it was kind of an experiment. It was really always meant to be a computer game, just way too complex to be on a console.
Did you just accuse them of playing the market?
Huh?
Did you just accuse them of playing the market? Oh, snap.
Yeah, I am accusing them of playing the market.
Oh, snap.
And, companies, sure, playing the market, you have to do that. That's how you're going to survive as a company. Especially if you're wanting to make money so you can have enough money to not only pay people, but have
But to
enough
go to
money
England
make
and
another
shoot
game.
zombies.
But, and then you have companies like Activision that want to overmake money, and then very rarely they'll release something that the consumer really deserves, and that's unfortunate as well. Or they'll make something really good, and then they'll get so into that game that they'll just make 1 million of them, which seems to be the recent trend, where you make one decent hit and then you make 10 games following every year.
They've got a 4th Gears of War.
I have no idea. I hope not.
It's got Baird in the lead, according to the trailer.
It got what?
Baird in the lead, according to the trailer on E3.
Baird?
Baird.
Baird.
Yes.
Describe that. Baird.
The blonde-headed guy. I think he's Baird.
Okay.
He's like 4th or 5th wheel in the whole show thing. No. Not really a lead.
But supporting character?
In the main ones, he's kind of just in the way. He plays the 4 behind a girl, which is no offense to the women, but frankly, he's playing behind a female.
Well, that's fine, but the game, I think it's really cool that they went that direction and added that story, but the female roles in Gears of War were underplayed. I think if they actually were a little bit more bold with those characters, Correct. It would have been much better.
There are certain
I think
games...
the game in general would have been... I think, and that's another problem, is games are story-wise based, are scared to take a step. You look at Gears of War, and you look at Halo Reach, and what did we see? We saw a little bit of drama, and that was really nice. It was really nice to see these two companies really try to step out of the box and add some more to the story, but it wasn't in depth enough. It just they focused on the action so much, you forgot about the other things. You don't really remember those storylines very much, because they only hit so lightly on it, just enough for you to go, oh, cool, when you're playing the game. But when you're done playing with the game, you don't think about it again.
Spoiler alert, George dying is not near as important as it should have been.
Yeah, exactly, because they underplayed it in the game. I mean, it was really sad when you were playing the game. Just afterwards, it just wasn't something you thought about when you go to bed at night. When you watch a movie, sometimes you'll think about the movie when you're going to bed. Or when you read a book, you'll think about it for weeks, because it forces you to go into that universe. And that's the thing that games have always attempted to do, but have only really scratched the surface.
Well, some of them have been pretty successful.
Well, yeah, sure.
If Mass Effect ends 5 minutes earlier,
people can imagine that universe, but that's not necessarily what you're going after. What you're going after is people to talk about it for weeks on end. So not just say, ooh, this game sold a whole bunch, and a lot of people are playing it constantly because all they can do is think about it. No, they're thinking about the gameplay. They're not thinking about the story 90% of the time, or more.
What about Mass Effect? If you throw out the last 5 minutes of Mass Effect 3, that's an outstanding example of the right way to do it.
Yeah, it is. It would be the right way to go about it, but the problem is that's an example of a great game
that went on 5 minutes too long.
Yeah, it was too long, not just ending clip-wise, but as a game in general. It was too long. As a single-player game, there is a way to make a game too long. And I'm sorry, Mass Effect 3 was just simply too long. There was a lot of unneeded things that didn't need to be in there, and they didn't make it important enough.
I don't think that Mass Effect 3 itself was too long. I think 1 to 2 to 3, if you'd have ran them back-to-back, would have gotten really, really tiresome.
Yeah.
I do like the evolution of the games, though. If you play 1, 2, and 3, they're very different from each other.
Yeah, the evolution of the games was nice, and the thing is excuse me, is that that's one of the rarest things that you'll see, is a game that can be so different from each other but still have the same feel. Like, all the Mass Effect games felt like Mass Effect, while with all the Halo games, 1 to 2 vastly different but acceptable, and then 2 to 3 vastly different but acceptable, and then from
you want to go 3 to Wars,
it just was unacceptable. It just didn't feel the same. And the difference between Halo and Half-Life is not because of the multiplayer or any of those aspects whatsoever. It's the fact that even though Mass Effect was so vastly different from each one of them, is that they still managed, Mass Effect still managed to feel like Mass Effect, and Halo was never able to do that. And that's why they got so many new people involved in the game, but also lost so many people, at least for the Halo community. While as Mass Effect typically kept all the people from the last one, and then gained quite a few more. Call of Duty, that's just
that's a different topic.
That's a completely different topic, and it's a shame that it makes as much as it does, because even though it does appeal to casual gamers, and I think it's great as a casual game, it's definitely shouldn't be the leading casual game, by far. It shouldn't be.
I'll counter that later.
Well, there's going to be a lot of people that disagree with me, and a lot of people that love Call of Duty are going to... Don't get me wrong, I've played plenty of hours of Call of Duty.
I haven't.
And, you know, it's just... It's one of those mindless games, and it's okay to have a mindless game. It's okay to have that casual game that you relax and have fun. And
I don't know,
even if you do get serious with the game and you do want to go competitive with the game, that's fine. That's
their stories were solid.
And yeah, their stories were pretty good.
Especially the last two. Those I liked them.
You did?
I liked the last two.
So you liked
COD
the
Blops
most
and
recent
3.
one then?
COD Blops and 3, I thought they're both pretty good.
Yeah, and I'm not saying the story isn't bad. It's the story was good. That's not what I'm getting at. The thing is that they rehashed a lot of things. I understand that they're trying to save a couple bucks here and there, and they got to pay people and so on and so forth.
And they got to maintain a year cycle.
Yeah. But this yearly cycle thing is my biggest issue with the Call of Duty series. It's not the games themselves, it's the fact that they are on this yearly cycle. And that's not fair to the consumer at all.
You think it'd be better suited to do a really, really nice DLC story or map pack?
I really think that the most recent Call of Duty should have been, I think that additional stories should be, it shouldn't necessarily, map packs shouldn't be released like they are, because let's be honest, all the map packs that have ever been released for Call of Duty, 90% of them have been god-awful.
Well, that's what I mean. You could, instead of continuing working on them on the 1 year cycle, take that year and put it toward map packs or story or something like that. Put that into a lot of cost on that.
There just needs to be better maps in general, and because I'm sorry, they make you buy these map packs to keep playing multiplayer. I mean, yeah, there's a couple options that you can still play without the map packs for a little while, but after a while, it just becomes mandatory, and that's just unfair to the consumer, especially when these maps are pretty awful. And especially when some of these games don't offer any veto options for the map, so on and so forth. And then on top of that, they're not really giving experiences, or they're not really taking what they've learned and applying it to the next game necessarily, because they're not really adding any new innovations. They're not taking risks with the game that's already out.
They're reskinning it?
Yeah, they're re-releasing the game, rehashing the game is what I'm saying. And even though they're adding a new story, what I mean is like I'm going to use Blizzard as an example again.
Your favorite?
They have another patch coming out, and they're testing out their new Battle.net. At least on StarCraft, it's they have it out right now, and you can apply for it and get on there and test it out and whatever else. And even though it's not perfect, there's still things that are missing that people want. It's at least they're taking chances on updating something, a game that's been out for a couple years now, and they can add more things to it and kind of experiment to see what people like and what is going to help them sell their next game. And I feel like Call of Duty has been very fortunate that they've been able to sell just as much, if not more, of their previous game without doing that type of thing. And I think that's a big problem that consoles have, is that a lot of people are dumping so much money into these games without ever doing anything with them. They don't take those risks. They don't do these updates.
There is something to be said about the market itself on that problem, though. With the cost of game production.
That is a market problem. It really is. It's because people get so into something.
You ever bought a bad game for $60?
What?
You ever bought a bad game for $60?
Oh, yeah.
That sucks.
It does. It's terrible.
Especially in this recession.
Well, the thing is that people, the reason why it is because they buy a game, they like it, so they think the next game's going to be better.
It generally is.
No.
Not a guarantee, but twos are a lot more solid than they are in movies.
Well, yeah. I mean, you look. I'm sorry to Valve fans, but you look at Left 4 Dead 1 to Left 4 Dead 2.
Yeah. It tried to be too good. It should have stayed simple.
Yeah, and then you have.
Don't say Portal.
No, I would not say Portal.
That was outstanding. 2 just got better.
Yeah, 2 did get better.
I want 3. Good job. Can we have 3? No, it's right. It's a 3 game, and Valve's never released 3s.
Hold on. First off, Valve are kind of jerks when it comes to timely based games. They release the first 2 games really quick, and then they promise a 3rd game, and it will never happen.
As I was saying, Valve never releases the 3rd game.
But that's one thing that I respect about Valve, is because I'm going to be honest, everyone wants Half-Life 3. They want part 3.
I'll play it.
Either one of them. Everyone wants the game. Even people that have never played the series, when they hear about how much people love it, they want to try it. They want that next game from Valve. And the thing is that it's not never going to happen, I don't think. I think eventually will happen. But the problem is that
they're in such a shape that they can take their time and do it right.
Not only can they take their time and do it right, and that's a luxury that Valve is fortunate to have, solely, almost completely based off of the Steam powered.
Wonderful thing.
Yeah.
It's right up there with the Epic or the Unreal Engine.
Oh God, don't no.
I don't mean how high quality you think it is. I just mean it's a moneymaker like that.
Yeah, it is. But anyways, Steam solely basically did that, and you know what's cool about Valve is whatever they want to get into, they have the ability to get into it. Whatever their employees are interested in, they have the ability to get into it and experiment with it, see what they can do with it. They want to do the cutting edge. And the thing is with Half-Life 3, it's not necessarily that they don't want to make the game. That's my personal opinion. It's not that they don't want to make the game. It's not that they don't want to give this next game to the customers. The thing is they don't want to release the game. They have made this series that is basically a god among FPS games. It really set the bar for a lot of everyone looked to Half-Life, and then eventually the mod off of it, Counter-Strike, which was an accident by Valve. Valve actually, when they made the game, they had no idea what they were doing. They were just releasing it for fun, and then it ends up being the biggest competitive game ever to be created, at least for that time period.
Did you know that Grand Theft Auto was based off of a mod?
Was it?
Not a mod. I think it was a glitch where they, if I'm not mistaken, I could be mistaken, but I think that it was, it was Grand Theft Auto where it was like the cop characters come after you aggressively. They said, "Ooh, let's play with that," and then they went on from there.
I believe I did see something off of that. Yeah, where they never really meant for certain things to happen in Grand Theft Auto. When they programmed it, they messed up in a couple places, and then they're like, well, that's kind of interesting. I guess we're keeping it.
I think Lara Croft had something similar to that too.
Well, actually, the first Easter egg was actually a byproduct of a bad coding.
Well, that's obvious.
And actually, what had happened was that a lot of companies didn't give credit to the people that worked on the game. So after a while, what people would the people that created the games would purposely mess up the code to purposely create Easter eggs to put their name down, because back then only one person would work on the entirety of a game, and they would not get credit for that game. So there was a couple people that said, you know what? Screw you, company. We're going to put something bad in the code that you guys aren't going to find through your whole testing period and whatnot. And then the masses will figure it out, and they will see my name. And I thought that was...
They still do that, actually.
Yeah. I don't know any recent games that have done
Psychonauts.
Psychonauts?
Yep. Psychonauts had one of the guy's girlfriends in it.
Oh, cool. But
another underrated game.
Yeah.
Back to topic.
Anyways, there's I think it was the creator of Minecraft that wants to fund number 2 for the creator of Psychonauts. He wants to fund the guy to make number 2.
Outstanding.
Because
I know, like,
but
Minecraft,
I'm not sure. That's just speculation. That was kind of a rumor from his Twitter a couple
he should anyway.
Hopefully
he should.
I mean, sounds like it would get a huge following. And
I'd love to see Tim Schafer
a lot of people have
do that again.
He has pitched Psychonauts to a lot of companies, and no one's really taken the bait for it.
Well, that's ridiculous.
I mean, people are like, we love the idea, we would love to do it, but it's just not right for now, is what he constantly gets being told.
Too ambitious? Huh.
Maybe. Possibly.
Of course, this is the same guy who made Psychonauts who's now doing the Once Upon a Monster.
But I don't know. I think one game that I'm actually excited for from everything that we're talking about is actually the PS3 game. It's not with zombies. What is it? What is that game called? Last of Us.
Oh, yeah, that game. Yeah, that looks...
I'm actually pretty excited for that, and I hope it really pays off to what everyone's saying about it, and not just what everyone's saying about it, but just from what the developers have kind of touch points on it, are kind of similar points to what I have been talking about.
I hate to say it, but that is Naughty Dog, right?
Yes, and
there's
Naughty
a lot of
Dog
those.
is
yes, Naughty Dog is outstanding.
You know what Naughty Dog said when I was reading a couple articles about them?
What?
They said their biggest mistake was selling the Crash Bandicoot license.
Ooh.
They say they regretted that this day that they did it.
I'm not gonna lie, I don't much like it myself, but I know it's so solid because I've seen examples of it. I just don't like that kind of gameplay. That's me.
You know, that was actually my childhood game, Crash Bandicoot. Everyone normally would say Zelda or Mario or something like that, but Crash Bandicoot was my childhood game.
Mm.
It was something that I really enjoyed playing. I really loved the game. And, you know, it sucks because I bet you the reason why they sold it was because they were going through financial crisis. And I think it seems like a lot of game developers that make a big hit and then kind of go on this off period and they go through financial crisis and then they start doing really well again, or they completely die out. And I think a great example for that is honestly Valve, because we didn't see anything from Valve for a long time. Then out of nowhere, Steam Powered came out and it took off. And I think that was their last ditch effort to kind of get back in the game, personally.
What about Harmonix?
I don't know a lot about Harmonix.
If I'm not mistaken, Harmonix was like Guitar Hero 2. Then they got dropped, and then they made Rock Band, and then they dropped Rock Band, and now they're on Dance Central too. They keep getting dropped, but they still make awesome stuff.
You know, and to be honest, I'm kind of happy that whole thing has kind of died off. That genre has kind of died off. Done making it. I kind of want it to.
I think there's a market for it
before they start doing it,
but not
because they were kind of turning into Call of Duty, releasing a new one every year.
Not the 3 a year. That's a little rough.
Yeah.
I don't need that many plastic peripherals in my closet.
Yeah, charging $120 just to
each.
get the damn thing,
and then they break. I still have my Guitar Hero 2 guitar, because that's what works the best.
I just bought one Guitar Hero, and then I was like, it's cool. Okay, I'm done.
Yeah, that really, really loud, clicky Guitar Hero 2, it's the most unbreakable one I've come across. Because I got one for Rock Band, and it broke in like a week. Like, dang it.
The drum set broke in like a week for me. And then all the pieces that you would lose eventually. Because they're all breakaway chords, so you wouldn't break the chords or hurt the chords. It would just fall off if you pulled too hard.
And then they broke away.
Yeah. Terrible design, at least in that part.
Well, not a terrible design, just not one that was that thought out.
Yeah.
Or you just.
I mean,
or you
it
don't
worked in the fact that you weren't breaking chords, and no one was getting mad at that fact. But it just sucked because everyone lost parts, and they never sold spare parts anywhere. I would try to find them, but I could never find them. So after a month or so, it just.
Then you'd find some third party from Mad Catz, and that thing wouldn't work half the time. So then you just give up and throw it in the trash.
Well, you want to throw it in trash, you put it in the closet, and maybe one day they'll release a spare part for it. Nope, never going to happen.
Right.
Because they're going to release another one and then have you spend another $120.
And then you go through that whole cycle again.
Yep.
Fun stuff.
But you know, it was a good game because, at least in the fact that people that want to be musicians, they never really had the audacity to go ahead and get a guitar and actually practice for the hours, so they could just kind of do something mindlessly, click buttons and whatnot, and it kind of gave them they didn't really teach them anything. It just helped them with the hand movement. So when they did finally decide, it kind of gave them that courage to finally take the next step. So that was kind of good in that aspect.
You think so?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think we're kind of trailing off on this subject. So I think we should end the episode.
You think so?
Yeah, I think so. I think we can maybe do another part some other time, but this one's getting kind of long.
So we may or may not return to Focus, oddly enough.
Well, no, I think there's a couple of more things to be said, but I think that should be kept for another part when we are a little more focused. Because, you know, with the, I think there's multiple things. I think there's about 5 major things with a game, and then there's about 20 or 30 underlying things that matter part of a game.
You come up with these numbers really quick. That's kind of concerning.
Why is that concerning?
It just is.
Why is it concerning?
I don't know. It just concerns me.
Is that a bad thing or a good thing?
Both.
Both. Okay. But yeah, it's just these 5 major things I think are the biggest parts, and those 5 major things have to flow together. All the other parts that are kind of minor don't really have to flow. They can be hyper-focused if they want to, like shading in game. That's not really part of graphics. It's more about, I mean, it helps with graphics, but it's not really an important part of graphics. And it can kind of help with that stylistic part that you're going with, kind of like Limbo. Limbo didn't really have shading. It was just the style was so unique.
That was outstanding.
It really was. It was a well done game. Well done game.
I'd read about that game like a couple months before it came out, and I was excited.
You know, everyone that was so up and atom about however many V's. Actually, I didn't really like the game. Not gonna lie.
Limbo was outstanding.
Was a great game. It really was. Geometry Wars was pretty cool too.
It wasn't anything really original. It's just kind of a throwback to the old games, and it worked well because it was updated enough that it looked cool.
Well, it was a throwback to old games, but I work with arcade games for a living at the moment, and it's an updated, definitely a much higher updated game than what they make now. Because right now what really makes money is Buck Hunter, and which is a hunting game.
Yes, we know.
Then you have the golf games, and the tabletops, the cocktail tops too, which are more the classic games that are sit downs.
Pac-Man.
Yeah. Pac-Man, Galaga, especially Galaga. You can always make money with Galaga. And
that is never one I would think of, but that makes so much sense because it's everywhere.
Yeah, and then you have pinballs, and pinballs can make money, but the problem is that they're so expensive to keep up. They're so expensive to keep running, so people will want to play them because for some reason everyone expects pinballs to be awesome all the time, but they're so rough on them, they break a lot and they take hours. An average pinball takes if you're kind of okay at cleaning them and fixing them, it takes about 8 hours to finish it. 4 hours if you're really good at it, but you have to be really good at what you're doing. It's a pain in the butt.
Congratulations.
But Geometry Wars was something that I think could go to arcades, and I think it would do really well, and something that I think that company should consider.
Well, technically it is on the arcade.
Well, yeah, Xbox Arcade, but I mean like an actual arcade game, not like the BS Xbox Arcade.
Oh, I'm inclined to not call those crap, because those are some of the better games.
Yeah, there's actually a lot of good games on there.
Shadow Complex, Trials.
Well, it gives indie games a chance. That's what I like about it. It gives indie games a chance and puts more money in Microsoft, and of course Microsoft's going to jump at the opportunity to make more money because they want to compete with Apple, even though they're not really into games.
Do you want to make a comment about the App Store and indie developers?
Not at the moment. I think we can save that topic for another time.
Fair enough.
But there's just so much to talk about video games, and so much to talk about that it's really relative to a lot of other industries too. And I think that's the whole point of this show in general, is that whatever we talk about is really focused on games, but you can really take it into a lot of other fields too.
Like zombies in England.
Yeah. Zombies in England. And not being able to shoot them in the head.
I still want to go.
I don't want to go because, again, I think I would get thrown out in about 5 minutes for shooting everyone in the head.
Well, they prefer you don't. They're not really going to throw you. It costs too much. Have you seen Resident Evil 6?
I've heard rumors about it.
I've given up on them.
Isn't that Raccoon City?
No, not Raccoon City. Resident Evil 6 itself. I give up on it. It's not scary anymore. Resident Evil is not Resident Evil.
It's more of it's becoming less scary and more weird. It's kind of like a mix between. It takes everything that Resident Evil isn't Resident Evil more anymore. It just took everything that was weird out of Silent Hill and just took the weird part. No scary parts, just the weird part of Silent Hill.
From the looks of 6, if you really want me to start putting comparisons together, it's Drake's Uncharted Adventure with zombies, and it looks like a Japanese game.
It always was kind of Japanese.
I know that. It's a matter of it doesn't strike me as Resident Evil. It's like a really, really bad zombie-filled Drake's Uncharted Adventures.
Well, Resident Evil, I'm sorry, was never really a great game, just a great story. Or a great idea less than a story.
Well, you can't hardly say that one was bad.
It's kind of like the movies. The most recent Resident Evil movie was god-awful. But rumor has it that the last Resident Evil movie was so bad was because they were saving budget for the next one.
That just seems pointless.
Yeah, in some aspects.
I guess Resident
the next
Evil
one is supposed to be so the director and the actors all say it's supposed to be their best one.
Well, of course they are. That's marketing.
Well, of course it's marketing, but
I think Resident Evil should go back to the Resident.
The most recent Resident Evil just kind of hit theaters and left theaters.
I think Resident Evil should go back to the mansion.
I think Resident Evil should rethink what they're doing because the most recent one kind of tried to do the whole video game and try to add aspects that the video game had into the movies. And the thing is that they were two counterpart universes. They had the same theory, but they were two different universes.
Although, for the record, the viral marketing they did for Operation Raccoon City was really cool.
Yeah, it was. Especially, remember PAX from last year?
Yeah, I remember that. That's where I got it from.
Yeah, they did a good job with that.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
We're going back again.
I say we take a break, and we'll see you guys next time. Thanks for watching our first episode of GankTank, and leave a comment below. Make sure you like and subscribe, and give us some suggestions for some other ideas.
Some topic to start with so we can talk for an hour on absolutely nothing about it.
Yeah. And then hopefully you watch it.
Yeah.
All right. Talk to you guys next time.